So today, I'm going to talk to you about what role do games have in the modern world, in the world we live in, and in the future that we are going to create. Let me start by telling you all a story. Recent one, today, this evening when I was driving up from Phoenix, I saw Milton Road, which you are all very familiar with, completely jammed, and Google still told me be on Milton Road. But for some reason, I decided to just take the diversion to Woodlands Parkway, forget the name, and I was able to bypass a lot of traffic. So rarely do we ever do decisions that are not Google friendly, right? in this today's world, we are so dependent on technology. But I had this instinct to make this change, and it was a sudden, on-the-spot instinct. And you may be wondering why I am talking about this. And I would like to say that some of these instincts that I've developed have been the result of me being in the world of games. And specifically, this example could trace back to my hours as a young adult playing the game Simpsons Road Rage. And in Simpsons Road Rage, believe it or not, it's not the shortest path that wins you the game. It's the fastest path. And somehow you get this instinct when you look at the world around you that you can really apply some of the things that you've been experiencing in the virtual world of games in our real lives. And you can really do a lot with it. And so today's talk is going to be about trying to broadening your ideas and trying to shape them and connect them to the world of games and why we should look at games a little differently. And hopefully you'll join me in trying to get a deeper perspective on that. So I'm calling this games the new Changemaker. And when I say Changemaker, it's the way we can improve our world. And we've seen over the years, lots of different revolutions have happened. We are currently in the digital revolution. You know, everything we do or touch is somehow connected digitally. I don't remember the last time I stepped inside a bank to make a transaction. I really don't. I mean, I have done it, everything I have done with all my financial transactions have been digital on my mobile phone. So we are in that revolution, and games have always been with us, whether they've been non-digital or now digital, they've been with us, and they've also evolved within this revolution. And so we're going to talk about it in terms of this revolution that we're seeing, with games being one of these change makers that we may not be aware of, but we should probably start thinking deeply about. So what are games, and why should we be really looking at it? And what have folks that have done a lot of studies in how we learn as human beings found about games? What people have found are quite common to different other forms of learning that we've seen evolve over time. And one of these theories is called constructivism. We all have found that when people come together and build and make things together, they have a deeper sense of learning. When you work in your kitchen with your family members and bake a pie, you come with a more sense of understanding the dynamics that lead into making that pie really tasty, right? So, and it is no different with games. You are in a world where you're experiencing things, you're collaborating with other people, you're forming new ideas, you're trying to create new strategies or solutions to challenges that you're facing. And so in the world of games, as you are playing these games, you are actually following some principles of constructivism that is deeply grounded in how we learn, how we absorb information, how we apply knowledge. All of these things are grounded when you are engaging in the activity of playing games. So let me segue a little bit and talk about games as activities that help you solve problems. And one of the things that a former evangelist at Google really talked about what the future of education should be is that what are we going to do to help solve problems? How are we going to shape education that helps promote problem solving? And so this is critical in how we understand games, because what we do in games is deeply connected to how we solve problems. So as we are going into this, the game tree that I have here, and digging deeper and deeper into this several aspects of it, I'm going to walk you through some of the ways how we connect games and learning together. And hopefully you'll get a good understanding of all the elements of this tree that I'm going to be talking about with you and discovering with you together today. So one of the important things, like we discussed earlier, math is very important. It forms basis of a lot of things that we do. It's no different in games. We have to understand how objects collide. We have to understand how we interact with the system using controllers, how that system then interacts with us using an interface that provides us information, how that transfer of knowledge happens between when we interact using a controller and when the systems communicate with an user interface, how that knowledge transfer is happening. Is it happening successfully? Are the players really understanding what the game is trying to tell them? And then all of this is being presented in the form of animations that are the visual end product of all of these different technical skills that you are trying to build through the experience of playing a game. But it's not just the technical skills that you're developing. You're not just analyzing these technical skills. You're also trying to get deeper into real-life skills. You're making decisions. You're trying to decide if this action is going to be better than the other actions. You're trying to make some evaluation. You're trying to evaluate risk. Will this lead me to success over this? You're trying to also strategize. So not only are you trying to make decisions at that moment when you're facing a complex problem, but you're also trying to have a long-term plan of how you would face similar problems if you encounter them. You then also learn perseverance because you're constantly trying to get better in this environment. And if all of this was not enough, you're trying to do more than one task at the same time. So it is an immense playground where you can really translate what you're learning in the game to skills that will be extremely beneficial when you go into the real life settings as you get into tasks that are important to you, that make you succeed in life. So going further into this tree, what do we do? What do we do as educators, as community members? How do we go forward to embrace this platform and make it more meaningful? So we want to really try to look at education that can provide some real-world connectivity within the gaming world. So how can we connect science and math in a way that it makes sense for folks who are inside and deeply immersed in gaming world, so that they're not just looking at the entertainment aspect, but they're also digging deep into all the other educational aspects that games can provide. How can we put all of these as challenges and competitions where you are not just looking at the high score, but you're looking at the problems that you're trying to solve? How you can overcome challenges that you can create among these groups that will advance science and math skills. It can also be very important if this perspective broadens in our communities. It can also be very important to really transform the lives we live. It can shape how to live healthier lives by creating rewards and mechanisms that are gamified versions of the actions you take in the real world. If I were to run a mile every day, I might get some gaming tokens as rewards, and I might be competing with my friends to see who gets the most number of tokens. How we work, how can we educate the peers, our subordinates, folks that rely on us through the power of games to be able to be effective at their workplaces. Here's an example of an app called My Hospital Doctor that is really trying to help understand the complete triaging process for the patient and the doctor so that when you go into the real situation, you are at much more comfort and ease, and the process is that much more smoother. So there's a lot we can do with games that can transform the lives that we live in. So what have I been doing? I have been building programs and initiatives in several universities over the last decade in trying to build a pipeline for how we can effectively teach games so that it's not just all about entertainment, but it is also about meaningful change in our communities. So we don't have to wait for this to happen at the university level. We can build a complete pipeline starting all the way from kindergarten to higher education. We can join efforts that are nationally available now, pushed by the White House, where you can create educational games that have meaningful connections to the subjects that you teach and enter into competitions. We can also think about how do we build game education standards. What can these standards mean? How can teachers adopt these standards? How can they integrate into the common core standards that are currently available in K-12? And then what can we do to empower teachers? How can we make them embrace this as a friend, as a companion that can really help them in their classrooms? So there's a lot of opportunity here for educators really to take the next step in this process. So a lot of times I get asked, okay, so I am interested. Where do I begin? What do I do? What do I look for? I always try to summarize it with the UMC model, or use, modify, create model. It's the easiest path to entry for anyone is to be able to pick up a game and try to see how well they can use it in their current context. A great example is Minecraft. A lot of kids these days play Minecraft. So what can you see in Minecraft that can connect with the things that you're doing in your classroom? Now, there was a student project that was given in a school that asked students to recreate the entire campus using Minecraft. The image in the bottom shows an example of a student work that was part of a class that they recreated their whole high school campus. The other option is to modify games. So you get into a game and you change it. And this is where you learn the systems more deeply. You can understand what the interconnections are, what the interactions are, and how can you make a better version of what's currently existing. The final one is to actually build games, right? So that requires a larger amount of technical knowledge, more understanding of programming and computer science. But these are all different pathways. And you don't have to always limit yourself to say, oh, I don't know this, and therefore I cannot get into the world of games. There are easier ways to enter the world, and then there are more complex and difficult versions of this. But there is a way for everyone, and every setting can really take advantages of the amount of gaming and digital content that's being pushed out there, that we can they can really take advantage of that to bring that into the classroom. So going forward, what should we all do? There has to be not just a change from the education community. Just trying to have teachers take the burden of bringing games in the classroom is not going to be the answer. We have to look for participation at a broader scale, at a larger scale. We need buy-ins from administrators. We need buy-ins from parents. We definitely don't need buy-ins from students. They're already bought in. If you see what's happening with the digital world, there's rarely a child that does not play video games, right? But the attitude and perspectives have to be changed. Partly because there is a stigma associated that games are actually taking away the time that students should rather spend studying or working on their homework. But there could be a win-win where they can be doing both. And what can we do to build that attitude, build that perspective, and how can we develop some real best practices that are well-tested, well-grounded, and then easily adoptable at scale, at home and in school. And then eventually, what can we do to build support structures so that what you learn today in your home, you can easily share it, transfer it to the community, to everyone worldwide, so that this really takes shape into a larger effort that grows with everyone's participation. So where is the future going, and what are we doing about it? So at ASU, I want to give you an example. The image on the top is a rendering of a system we're building. We're investing millions into it, called ASU Dreamscape Learn Platform. It's a fully immersive pod where students can go in and explore highly complex worlds that they would never have been able to do it otherwise. So that image is showing a complete wildlife planet that they're exploring all the ecological systems and trying to derive the taxonomy of all of the life there, both the plant life and the animal life, and making observations and running experiments completely in an immersive virtual setting. We already have seen lots of robots in our schools, but they're just for mostly tinkering and understanding STEM at the moment. But that's not where it's stopping. We're going to have robots in our lives. We have the Roomba cleaning our floors, but that's not where it's going to stop. It's going to be much more than that. But can we just completely rely on robots to do everything? We cannot, and we are already realizing that the human has to be in the loop. Without the human in the loop, the robots are really not as powerful. So how do we work together, humans and robots? This is all going to be the next big challenges that the world and the digital transformation that we are seeing now has to solve. But why am I bringing this? Because understanding how games work as systems, will really prepare the next generation to be able to solve these problems that are going to be much higher at scale, much more immersive, and much more technologically intense and rich. They will be the generation that will be able to easily get into that and solve it. And that is something we all cannot deny, is the need that we are facing at the moment with the rapid acceleration and digitization that we are seeing around our world. So with that in mind, I'd like to leave you thinking about what can you do today that you may not have thought about or have not done to try and bring games into your life in a way that makes it really meaningful and powerful, so that you can change our communities, our students, our schools, and take them into the future. Thank you.
Really fun. Thank you. Well, I have a question for you as well. So I think a lot of you have heard my kids. They make some noise. You talked on the large picture, bringing gaming into education, making it more widespread, accepted. But from the purely selfish standpoint, how can I, as a parent, bring games into our family that will be educational and fun for everybody? And then also, what are the limitations we should be putting on? Because obviously, sitting and playing Minecraft for 10 hours a day is not as beneficial as we would like.
Yeah, no, it's great point, and this is on every parent's mind, and I get asked this question quite a lot because I've been in this field, and everybody sees me doing research in this field, and they'll be like, how can we, take advantage of it, but we don't want to lose sight of the big picture, right? So I want to say two things. And the first one is to be mindful, both from what the activities that the kid is engaged in, as well as being mindful about the outcomes that are coming from those activities. Now, running around just shooting aliens is fun, but that's not really a mindful activity, right? So, so that's where the divide really should start framing. You want to have positive, shared conversations with your child about what problems did you solve while you were in the gaming environment? Was it really hard? If they say, no, this was easy, then stop. Let them not play that game, because if it's easy, then they need to go on to something that's going to really challenge them, because that's where the difficult problems are. The other thing I want to talk about is this growth mindset. A lot of times what happens is kids get really involved in a game, they get really good at it, and that's why they stay in it, because they're so good at it, right? But that does not have a growth mindset with it. We want our children to evolve as game players as well, because when they evolve and move on from one game to the other, they're actually absorbing a variety of skills, because no game is alike, and every game has something different to offer. So those are kind of some things to kind of think about when you're working inside your home with your child and are worried they're playing too many games. You know?
All right, thank you. That's really good advice. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done.
All right. Bye.